Welcome back. South Africans will once again head to the polls today to elect local representatives in what analysts say looks like the toughest test for the ruling African National Congress. The shortened campaign period of 8 weeks has left political parties scrambling to convince skeptical electorates to back them in these elections. In September this year, South Africa's Constitutional Court ordered the Independent Electoral Commission, who had sought a postponement due to the COVID-19 pandemic, to hold the municipal government elections. To tell us more on what this looks like, I'm now joined on Skype by Glen Mpani, who is the Managing Partner of Shikamo Advisory and Political Campaigns. Good morning, sir, and thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Mpani, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Right. Sir, how is the political atmosphere looking like as we speak right now in the Rainbow Nation?
So today is election day,
Yes.
and obviously people are supposed to move to the polls across the country. Yesterday, it was a day for special voting, and over 1 million people registered for special voting. And by close of polling station yesterday, about 57 to 60% of the voters who had asked for special voting had been allowed to vote. And since today it's a Monday, it's a public holiday, data shows us that local government elections generally attract more people to go and vote. So the challenge that we are likely going to have with an election on a Monday is it might be viewed as an extended weekend and as a holiday, and people are less likely going to vote. Secondly, the other challenge that is there is that with COVID and the shortened period of campaigning, there is a chance that people are also not going to be able to go out and vote because the election has not really generated a lot of excitement. The third factor that is there that one needs to be able to consider is that, particularly for the ruling party, it's confronted with a lot of disgruntlement at a national level, and therefore its support base is less likely going to go and vote. So these factors are the ones that are going to be having an impact in terms of how people are going to participate in this election. And we will be able to say more towards the end of the day. But as we get in terms of even weather reports from Cape Town, it's raining and it's windy, and that is also a deterrent for people to go and vote. So let's wait and see what is going to happen. But turnout is going to be the major determinant in terms of what outcome we are going to have out of this election.
But Mr. Mpani, from your observation throughout the past 8 weeks preparing for today as South Africans take to the polls, do you think enough preparation was done?
The Independent Electoral Commission was able to prepare in terms of getting all the logistics. If you compare electoral commissions on the continent and in Southern Africa, the South African Electoral Commission is very capable of holding free and fair elections. And therefore, any time or any date when they were asked to hold an election, they were fairly prepared for it. I think the question that we should ask is, were political parties ready to hold the election? And I think for the dominant parties, the ANC, the DA, and the EFF, they could be able to hold elections effectively because of issues of resources, issues of infrastructure, and their support base. For independent independent parties, smaller parties, issues of resources are a challenge. And remember, this is a COVID environment. So the ritual methods of campaigning, such as rallies and the like, which are usually affordable, are very difficult in a COVID environment. You have to use technology, you have to buy advertorial space, and I think that is a major challenge for smaller opposition political parties. But it will also work in their favor. If you've got limited resources, you've got very little time, that very means that you can use your small budget effectively. So we'll see with the outcome, the impact of this shorter period of time in terms of campaigning for political parties.
Now, I'm glad you brought in independent candidates. Now, this is an interesting phenomenon. This could be a game change, perhaps not so much because, as you mentioned, the challenge of resources and the time that they had to prepare. However, what are your thoughts of this phenomenon of independent candidates?
Yes, there is, in this election, there are about 1,526 independent candidates that are vying for position. And you know, there are two categories of independent candidates that one you need to be able to look at. One category of independent candidates is those that have been disgruntled because of intra-party fighting, that is primary elections within political parties. Some disgruntled candidates feel that they should have been the candidates and therefore they decide to run as independents. But in essence, they remain members of the party. And then we've got another group of independent candidates. These are the ones that are coming in now saying, we are professionals, we've worked in different capacities, we don't want to associate with the political parties. We feel that political parties are the reason why there's poor delivery of services, and we would want to run as an independent for us to be able to show how things are done. The challenge of that way of thinking is affected by data. One, if you look at Afrobarometer data across the African continent, you realize that party identification or loyalty to political parties across Africa is very high. Our supporters or our voters, they like identifying with the brand. And so associating with an independent candidate is a challenge. The second factor that one needs to be able to understand is that is associated with party identification is that voting is emotional and it is not rational. So if you associate with a brand, it basically means you're attached to your party. Whether your party performs or it doesn't perform, you're attached to it. The third factor that is simply there are issues of accountability. If we are saying that candidates that come from political parties are not going to be loyal, have failed simply because they are loyal to the party, the question that we need to ask independent candidates is, who are they loyal to? If they fail to deliver within the 5 years, are they better off than the ones that are attached to a political party? That remains a subject for debate. And if you look at the South African electoral system, remember, it is a mixed system. It has got direct voting and PR system. You would find that most independent candidates are running for direct voting. If they so win, who are going to be their candidates for the PRS system? So the model, the thinking behind it might make sense, but the model is flawed. And in my view, I don't have any issues with independent candidates, but in my view, I don't see them making any traction. I don't see them, even a third of them winning in this election. I see this election being dominated by the political parties that have been in existence and the few emerging ones that have come up, like in the Joburg Metro and in Cape Town.
Now, the South African National Defence Force has confirmed that about 10,000 soldiers will be deployed across the country to help law enforcement officials safeguard elections. Well, we are hoping it will be a peaceful and fair elections.
South Africa has traditionally ran very peaceful elections, and I have no doubt that this is going to be a peaceful election. And I think it's good for them to be cautious, considering that a couple of months ago we had nationwide protests as a result of service delivery. So I think it's fair for them to do that so that at least at the end of the day, they can guarantee that this election is free and fair. And you don't want to be caught by surprise if there is any electoral malpractice that can end up leading to any violence. So I think that is actually a very good move in terms of ensuring that no one is deterred, there is no violence, and it's run smoothly.
Now, in conclusion, Mr. Mpani, what time do the polls open and what time do they close, and when can we expect results to start trickling in?
The polls opened at 7 a.m. today, and they are going to close at 7 p.m. And I think they can continue open until everyone who is queued is in the queue has voted. The results, I think they're going to start trickling in tonight, but the full composite results will be finalized. I think they'll all be in by Thursday.
Well, thank you very much for taking our time to speak to us this morning. We will be observing the elections as they go forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that was Glen Mpani, who is the Managing Partner Shikamo Advisory and Political Campaigns. And he was talking to us about the local elections taking place in South Africa, where polls are set to open at 7 a.m. and to close at 7 p.m. today. We'll be back with the next interview shortly. Stay with us.